Hey, welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. Everything in this video was found on a public domain. Look down below for the full disclaimer. Lots of love and many blessings your way. And a big thanks to Pretzel. I appreciate you very much. So it's no secret that Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, had been called to meet up with Charles at Sandringham. Charles has always kind of had the reputation of having a really hot temper. Real hot temper. Not this time. They said he was eerily calm. Andrew was trying to say, hey, look, let's let this blow over, smooth over, everything will be fine, we'll be right where we need to be, we'll pick up where we left off. And as it was told to me, Prince Charles said, there's no way, you're never coming back in the royal family. And now that you're going in front of the FBI eventually, I'm really worried that going in front of the FBI, talking to them, will absolutely hurt the mystery of the monarchy. Oh boy. So what exactly is Charles afraid of? They have quite a few secrets, and if you're not familiar with them, let's talk about them real fast. Did you guys know that the day that Prince Philip married the Queen, he had actually slept around with a Russian ballerina earlier that day? Her name was Galina Olenova. They say he was deeply in love with this woman, super obsessed. Her character was very stiff and rigid, not at all affectionate or warm. So earlier that day prior to the wedding, he had spent some time with her alone. There was this one time when the Queen had gone into his luggage for some reason, and she discovered the picture of this ballerina. For the years, this ballerina admitted to sleeping with Philip several times, and one of those times was right before the marriage, the day of. That's cold. Another very small obsession, wink wink, was Pat Kirkwood. She was absolutely opposite of everything he ever chased, and he got hooked quick. They called her legs the eighth wonder of the world. She was like an actress, singer, sort of like a showgirl. She told the press one time that her life would have turned out a lot easier had Prince Philip not busted into her dressing room and just gone home to his pregnant wife. In a book written by Sarah Bradford, a biographer, she says that, Prince Philip had full-blown affairs, and more than one. He has affairs and the Queen accepts it. I think she thinks all men are just this way. And in 1957, he was busted meeting up regularly in a West End apartment with an unnamed woman. They say he kept her for years. They say the women he typically goes for are young and beautiful and very snooty, highly aristocratic. Still makes him a dirty dog. As a woman, I feel that women are more conniving, more sneaky, much more than men. I feel if a real solid count was ever taken, full-blown honesty, it would prove that women outnumbered the men when cheating. I'm wondering if the Queen just got fed up with his infidelity and decided it was her turn. Have you guys ever heard of Lord Porchester? He was the racing manager for the Queen. It's been said over the years how in love the Queen was with Lord Porchy, as she called him, and he was with her. She became pregnant with Prince Andrew. Now here's where it gets weird. Lord Porchester was always close around. He completely doted on the Queen. They say he babied her, handled her with kid gloves throughout the pregnancy, and were very rarely seen apart. Even her introduction of Andrew, as well as the christening, guess who was there? Good old horse race manager, Lord Porchy. He stayed right by her side for most of his life. They hid their affair so well that not many people knew or even thought, hey, this is going on. Lord Porchester and Andrew look so much alike, you do not need Maury to read the results. You can clearly see who the daddy is. And after digging around and searching out a few things, I really don't feel like the Queen has kept that a secret from Andrew. I think he's known for quite some time who his bio dad is. And even though she may not have as many under her belt as Philip does, she's no guiltier than he is. Speaking of guilty, let's talk about 1964. A fast warning here. It gets a little darker. If you can't handle it, I totally understand. In October of 1964, the Queen and Philip visited Kamloops School in Canada. This school was filled with nothing but dirt poor children. There were several orphans at this school, but if you came from a family, according to survivors, these people would go around recruiting these children, talking these dirt poor families into giving their children a higher education. Sort of like taking the burden off the family, feeding them high hopes and promises. The International Common Law Court of Justice, they filed charges against the Queen and Philip after a long investigation due to their discovery of all the murdered children, the missing children, the abuse that took place at this Kamloops residential school. They had a star witness against the Queen and Philip. His name was William Combs. He gave a sworn testimony and was their main star witness of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, where he sworn that he seen torture, genocide, and crimes against humanity committed by Elizabeth and Philip. He witnessed personally the 1964 abduction of the 10 children from that Kamloops residential school. I'm going to try to read as fast as I can without stumbling my words because I don't like long videos. Here's his sworn testimony. I'm a 58-year-old survivor of the Kamloops and Mission Indian residential schools, both belonging to the Roman Catholic Church. I suffered terrible tortures there, especially by the hands of Brother Murphy. I witnessed him personally throw a child over the third-story balcony to her death. Brother Murphy stuck me on a rack, breaking several of my ribs and many bones, throwing me in the basement after a failed attempt of running away and being caught. October 1964, I was 12 years old. The day leading up to the visit from the Queen and Philip, we were given a fresh pair of clothes and something good to eat. This was rare. Next day they showed up. I felt it was strange due to them coming all by themselves. We were made to kiss the toe of her white-laced boot. I was one of the children selected to go on this picnic with Philip and the Queen and a few other priests. Picnic took place down the meadow near Dead Man's Creek. After a while, I saw the Queen leave the picnic with 10 children from the school. Those kids never returned. The group was 7 boys and 3 girls, ages 6 to 14 years old. 2 of the boys were brothers. They were from the smart group in the class. We've never heard anything more about those children. They vanished, never to be seen again. The Queen and Philip's visit lasted for about 3 days. My 11-year-old friend was with me. We both watched the abduction of these 10 children. Unfortunately, he's dead now. I've also witnessed many children being buried behind the school by several priests and other school workers. You guys, he swore to this. I believe every bit of it. After nearly a year of litigation, the Queen and Prince Philip were found guilty of the disappearance of those 10 children from October of 1964 from the picnic at the Kamloops residential school. They also were found guilty in the disappearance of 50,000 other missing children that they're linked to. In 2010, a very healthy William Combs gave a radio interview talking about what he had witnessed that October 1964 with the 10 missing children and the Queen and Philip's role in it. Directly after that, he was ordered to the hospital to have some tests ran. From there, he ended up being injected, put in a coma, and without the permission of his family, taken off life support and died. The Queen and Philip were found guilty. They were indicted on these charges. There is a current order of arrest for the Queen and Philip, but due to the fact that they're above the law, they all are. Even Andy. Nothing will come out of this. A couple of years later, after these arrest orders were put out there, a British soldier by the name of Vivian Cunningham made a huge mistake. He was just kicking around, just curious, so he asked his superior about these arrest orders for the Queen and Philip. Next thing that took place, he was committed to a mental facility against his will as well as his family's. He was injected with an atypical antipsychotic drug, olanzapine, under orders of Captain Murrell and Doctors Khan and Seema. 6 months later, he was released from St. George Hospital Psychiatric Unit with a diagnosis of suffering from an acute psychotic episode. So next time he opens his mouth, people won't take him serious. He's just crazy. Do you see how they work, you guys? And it's no secret they're high-ranking in the Illuminati. And of course, it's real. A lot of people say, well, Illuminati, that's ridiculous. Is it? And it's based on the satanic principles. We can further dive into that in another video. I must say this. Harry overplays the hand signals. I mean, it's like getting stale at this point. We get it, Harry. We get it. We got it. Angela Merkel was called out by a British tabloid for making strange hand signals linked to a secretive cult during a meeting with the royal family. Close attention to the brooches and things that the Queen wears. It's hidden in plain sight. Moving along, let's talk about why would they need children. You guys hear what Andy said during that BBC interview? I can't sweat. I had a condition. I had an overdose of adrenaline when I was shot at in a war, which makes no sense. My dad was deployed on 2 separate occasions during Desert Storm. Those MH-53Js, those badass Pavlos, my dad kept them bad boys in flight. And he was always shot at over there in the Gulf War. He didn't come home not sweating. He can sweat gallons. So you have to wonder what made Andy think it was okay to pull out, I had an overdose of adrenaline. Have you ever noticed these jokers' hands? It's like Charles is walking around with 2 catcher's mitts. His hands are literally so engorged that they're splitting open. And that joker doesn't even zip up his own fly. So don't tell me he has worker's hands when he embarrassed himself not knowing how to operate a power drill. And it don't stop with him. Look at the Queen. She always has some kind of messed up hand. And it don't stop with her. Look at Harry. He's got a red bloated hand. Did you guys know that a side effect, one of the main ones for the use of adrenochrome, are bloated appendages? Bloated, swollen fingers, toes, hands, feet. And it's nothing new. It's been around for quite some time. And so I won't ruin everybody's day. If you are one of the ones that want to know more about it, leave me a comment. I'll be more than happy to make an in-depth video. I will say, has everything to do with the adrenal gland. And the top preference is a very young adrenal gland. When Charles says to Andrew, hey, look, I'm really worried about you going in front of the FBI, it's going to expose us. Philip swoops up from behind like a creepy buzzard he is and says to Andrew, take your punishment and move on down the line. There's huge reasons behind that, you guys. And I believe with all my heart, all of their secrets are just about to gush out. And what hurts my feelings are for the people that hold these people in such high regard. There's some young people that really respect the royal family, but all the old school people that would truly take a bullet. I mean, I've read things that just blew my mind. I won't mention names. I'll just say this. Their eyes, none of them can do any wrong. And if you speak negative against them, oh, to hell with you. I can't tell you how many different blogs and videos that I have personally watched and read that dog me to the bone. I have to admit, this is not just a royal family situation. There are a lot of people involved with this. Unfortunately for them, the royal family seem to be at the tippy top. And I'm not here to preach, but I'm going to tell you this. There is a God, a creator of this world. And when you mess with children especially, oh boy, I believe there's going to be a wrath against those people that our brains on earth can't even conceive or comprehend. And what I've talked about in this video don't even make a dent in what they're really guilty of. I certainly didn't mean for us to talk this long. And if you're still here, bless your heart. Hey, I'll see you soon and we'll talk so much faster. Y'all stay safe and be blessed.